Hello chess family, it's me National Master Jesse James, and today we're going to take a look about how to convert a winning rook and pawn endgame. Now I'm not saying this is for all endgames, but in this game we're going to be seeing a very nice one by Rubinstein versus Lasker, two of the best players in chess history, and well, how Rubinstein just really does a very good endgame technique here by trading down. I mean, at this point you'll see, this is not a rook and pawn endgame. At this point, white is just doing such a good job, they're able to trade down, but also there's a lot of checkmating ideas in the position, or maybe just winning material. With that being said, what does Lasker do? He's going to go ahead and trade off because, well, he knows I will die if we keep these queens on the board, but I might have a chance here. I don't know this guy's endgame skills. This is actually the first game they actually ever got to play. Alright, here we go. Well, he did not know that Rubinstein was a great endgame player, especially with these rook and pawns. So let's go ahead and trade down here. Queen takes on e7, king takes on e7, and now a very strong move here. Actually, I'll ask you, what do you play here? Should you go ahead and play rook to f2 here? Should you take the pawn, or should we go ahead and play something like pawn to h3? Alright, hopefully you made a choice here. Believe it or not, it is rook takes on f5. If you study this position, it might have been a hard move to find. Why? Because just like with rook f2 ideas, well, if you try to guard the pawn over here, black is going to be a bully here and play rook check. And now you see that the pawn must be lost if you want to play for a win. Rook f1, rook d2, and there's no good way to defend this. I mean, you're more than welcome to play something like rook to b1 here, but remember the old adage, keep your rooks active. Well, now your rook is behind this pawn. It's not doing too much here. It's going to be stuck. Here, Ready Computer is giving this as an even position, and well, it's up to black to play a few different moves here. You can play rook e2 and win the pawn back immediately, or, I like the way the computer plays this, just move your king upward, and we'll win this pawn either way. Even though you are up an extra pawn here, it does not matter. Your rook is inactive now. So back to the game. Here the move to play was actually rook takes on f5. Alright, here we go. Rook to d1 check, attacking the king. And here, king to f2. Alright, rook to d2 check, which is going to win the b2 pawn. And here, king to f3. Alright, first job has been done. What's that? We're losing a pawn? No, we're getting our king active. We're up an extra pawn here, and we got to stay active in this position. Remember, it is worth a pawn to get your rook active. All right, rook takes on b2. And now a very strong move here again. What do you play? Hopefully you see it. We're going to play rook to a5. How is this so strong? Not only does this attack a pawn and defend your pawn, but the real idea here is to try and get this rook inactive. I mean, there's only one way to defend the pawn, right? The rook has to retreat. And this is exactly what we want. Just like whenever our rook was on b1, the rook on b7 is very badly placed. It's not active. It's just going to be used for defense. And now another strong move. What do you do here? Rook to a6. What's this move do? Very simply, it's going to cut the king off. In the endgames, there's only a few different tactics that you can really use, or very strong chess techniques, and this one is one of them. You cut your opponent's king off. Notice that the king cannot move forward anymore because the rook is cutting it off. Why is this important? Now white has all the time in the day to start advancing the pawns. By the way, which pawn is your best pawn here? It's not too hard here. It's your e-pawn. Why? This is a passed pawn. This is a pawn that has no pawn in front of it. Don't get me wrong, black is going to use all the resources they can to stop it, but this is your strongest pawn here. Notice that every other pawn is going to have a hard time to get across because, well, there's an opposite pawn from it. So now we're just going to see black kind of shuffle back and forth because that's their best technique. They can't really do too much here. If they try and push forward too hard, they're just going to end up losing. Notice the rook can't move anywhere because of the pawn. The king can't move forward because of the rook. Now, let's start making progress here. Black went ahead and played king f8, and now we start pushing forward, e4. At this point, you're just going to see black push his pieces back and forth, and here we're going to go ahead and get to our ideal position, meaning let's go ahead and put our pieces to the best place until we can make our next breakthrough. So, h4, king f7, g4, king f8, king f4, king to e7, h5, and here, well, our opponent goes and helps us out and plays h6. How does this help? Now we have a new weakness to attack here. It's the g7 pawn. And also, when h6 was played, this created what's called a penetration square. What's a penetration square? Very simple. Earlier, notice, well, our king couldn't really get over here too much because, well, if we try to go this way, the pawns are all blockading. And if we try to go around, well, we got a king and a rook to deal with. Now, when the pawn was played to h6, now we have a penetration square. Do you see it? It's the g6 square. So now our king thematically would like to get to f5 and g6. Maybe even our rook trying to get over here too to attack on the g7 pawn. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's keep making progress. King to f5 was played. King to f7. And here we go ahead and play pawn to e5. Here the final breakthrough is getting underway. And again, black is just helpless here. He just has to move back and forth here. Here he went ahead and played rook b7. And now a nice tricky move, rook to d6. Can you find the idea by Rubinstein here? Or if you push pause and try to figure it out. Because of this threat, black or Lasker had to go ahead and play king to e7 to stop the threat. So what was the threat? Here, let's say black went ahead and played rook c7. And, well, it would be white to move and win. What do you play? Here you can just trade down to an easy endgame. Rook to d7 check. Remember, the easiest endgames to win are king and pawn. So you should always be on the lookout for this. Obviously, if you go ahead and take on d7, e6 check gets played. King over to e7. Pawn takes, king takes. And if it wasn't for this, it would be a little bit harder. But here, king to g6 gets played. And we got an easy king and pawn endgame. Okay, that's why in the game, he went ahead and played king e7. Ooh, I will point out real quick, here, do not try to push your pawns forward at all, at least here for black, as the rook just goes behind the pawn and will win it quite easily. Notice that these pawns are pretty much stalemated. Remember, one of the rules, try not to make pawn moves in the endgame. All you're doing usually is creating weaknesses. All right, back to the game. King to e7 got played, and now rook back to a6. Again, the technique here is phenomenal. Going ahead and putting pressure over here on the a7 pawn, and well, what does the king here have to do? Pretty much nothing. So here, black went ahead and played king back to f7, rook to d6, king to f8, and now what do you play? Rook to c6. Oof. Now the rook can jump in with rook over to c8 check, and well, where does the king go? Here the king only had one idea, which was to play to f7, and here, well, he went ahead and played pawn to a3, and believe it or not, this is just a lost position here. Here, this is complete zugzwang, as there's nothing good to do here. And every variation, this is now a +8. Okay, can we move the pawn? No, again, if you move your pawn, the rook goes behind it. Okay, can we move the rook somewhere? Can you move the rook? The rook here stops the idea of the rook going to d7, because remember, if rook goes over to d7 here, e6 check just gets played. Okay, can't we just go ahead and play king over to e7? Here, now you allow access to the f7 square, so king g6 gets played to win on g5. Okay, can I go to e8? Well, this one's even easier. We can go king g6. We have rook c8 check. Quite a few moves here. Maybe even king e6 can get played in this kind of position. And what about king over to f8? Here again, we could play king to g6 with two different ideas. Now we have rook c8 check and king takes on g7. Notice the king here is stalemated. Can't go to g8 because of mate. And can't go to e8 because, well, what do we play on e8? After king e8, rook c8 check, king will have to block, and the king can look about taking the pawn here on g7. And with all these passed pawns, well, it's going to be just a very easy game here. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Remember, rook and pawn endgames are very important. If you study these, you will either gain a lot of half points, getting draws in these games, or begin another half point because you'll be winning in these drawn positions. All right, guys, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next game.